Hey everybody, Puzzle Max here, and let's go ahead and have another look at the Trefoil Tetrahedron and the Rhombohedron six-color puzzles this time around. Big apologies to anybody who spent the entire first video yelling at their screen because obviously I'm blind and was overthinking both of these puzzles way too much. In the first video, I couldn't see it, but after solving the Trefoil Tetrahedron, it finally dawned on me that I was not looking at the right base puzzles for either of these. So just quick overview, these are both corner turning and edge turning puzzles, and they look a little different, but if you make one single turn here, then you have corner turning ability and edge turning ability. So it's the same basic mechanism. This one just has some extra colors and is missing some of these big pointy edges, or pointy corners, tips rather. In the first video, I made it clear that these are based from a Pyraminx. That holds true. You can still do Pyraminx style turns on, clearly this one, but also over here, if you do a single turn, then you can do Pyraminx style turns on this one, just cutting out one of the large tips. Still does the same basic thing. But in that first video, I was comparing these to a 3x3 Master Morphix puzzle. That's completely wrong. These are actually based from a 2x2 Pyromorphix puzzle, where you've just got big corners. And I guarantee you someone saw that and was yelling at their screen. But it's obvious now. If you turn this whole section here is a corner, as is this triangle in the middle. That's just two different corners. So there's just 4 corners here involved. The solve on this puzzle, the Trefoil Tetrahedron, was much easier than I expected. It involved kind of 3 different types of reduction, but once I figured it out, there's a small parity that isn't a problem. It's pretty easy. Basically, the way I went around it was using after I got it back to puzzle shape, using the Pyromorphix turns, I was able to reduce these little triangles next to the big triangles in the top, and then using some techniques from my Master Pyraminx and the Dion Gem 4 puzzle, I was able to reduce these edges along with these little pieces here next to those. Once those were reduced, I could reduce these entire edges together. Then I just put them in place. The parity involved 2 that needed swapped. That was easy to do, just swap them, kind of common sense type of thing, basic intuition. And then from there, solve it like a Pyraminx. At the end, I had issues where a few of these pieces needed to be cycled, these sets of pieces. That's when it dawned on me that this was just a 2x2 Pyromorphix puzzle, and all I had to do was rotate this big triangle, aka a corner, rotate that in place, rotate this big triangle corner on the back, and that would leave me these 3 edges available for swapping. And I could swap in those to another place, rotate this big corner here, this big triangle center, rotate that again, and move things around pretty freely. So yeah, these are not nearly as difficult as I was making them sound in the first video. They're certainly complicated. If you don't understand kind of intuition and have some reduction skills for a few more complicated puzzles, you're still going to run into trouble. But they're not nearly as hard as I made them sound. The scramble, I also did a horrible job doing that scramble the first time. But we're going to get to see both of these scrambled up in a second here. The solve on this one here, I think, is still going to be a bit more difficult just because of the number of colors. I'm going to have to use these big tips as guides when reducing the edge sections. But I think the same exact techniques involved in the Trefoil Tetrahedron will play true on the Rhombohedron. So it's just going to be a kind of little different type of thing. After I solved this a couple more times and completely wrapped my head around exactly how to make those reductions and how to fix the parities and things, I will certainly be posting a tutorial video on this. But in this one, you're just going to get to see them both nice and scrambled up. and I'll explain the scrambles as I go. So first thing you need to do here with the trefoil tetrahedron is scramble it up like a pyraminx. You still don't have tiny tips on the top or anything to work with, but you just do some pyraminx type scrambles and things like that, and you're good to go. Next up, I'm still going to do the pyramorphics turns in 180 degrees. That's just going to be to keep it in the correct puzzle shape, but it's just going to be a simpler thing. One other thing that I made a big misspoke about in like hardcore is I originally said that this has 10 axes, and while that can be true depending on how you're looking at it, it's not actually a right thing, because if you take a look at a 2x2, even though there's 6 faces that can turn, there's really only 3 axes, because if I turn this right, it's the same thing as if I were to turn the left. Same with the front, the down, or the up and the down, the front and the back. So there's only 3 axes on a 2x2, even though there's 6 faces that can move around, which means that this puzzle actually only has 7 axes that can move. But it's a matter of kind of opinion. Some people will still argue that it does have 10 axes, things like that. But in my opinion, there's only 7 different axes, because turning this is exactly the same as turning this down here. So take that as you will, use your own kind of deduction method to make that decision. So after you do that, now if you turn it sideways and then do just a right inverse, down inverse, right. Now I have full access to this piece here, so I can break up some of those corners to get them off of the big triangle. And then I can come back here and just do right inverse, down inverse, right again to bring it back to shape. So that's a good way to make sure that all those corners are kind of broken up from one another and as screwed up as you want them to be. So after you do that a bunch of times, not that, then you can just kind of make some more free turns and kind of scramble this as you see fit, with the ultimate goal being to get as many pieces mixed up as you can before taking it out of cube shape. This one's a great state. I showed this in the last one where you can easily return it to puzzle shape, but that's also a great state for taking it out of puzzle shape really, really well. If I do that, I can then make turns down here that take it out of puzzle shape. And then I can put it back to the mostly pyramid shape and come to another one. And doing that, knowing that you have that algorithm to work with, is a good thing, and it just saves some extra time because you don't have to worry about finding free slices and things like that. So I just kind of go around and do that in a lot of different places. Sorry if I'm pulling this off camera, it's very catchy still, so. And then you can make some extra free turns here and there to break those extra pieces up. Some big turns on that big corner. And after seeing the positions of this, it's really obvious that I was just freaking blind when I was looking at this puzzle the first time around. And the catchiness is probably the biggest issue on this puzzle, and that's just more of an annoyance than anything. So let's go ahead and turn this. So you can see you can break up a lot of those, and putting those back isn't very difficult. Once it dawned on me, it was pretty simple to see. So let's go ahead and just leave that looking like that for now. That's pretty good scramble. Lots of stuff out of place. And I will be able to solve this again. I've figured out a very straightforward method for approaching this. I want to solve it myself a couple more times before trying to do a tutorial. On this is my first time scrambling the Rhombohedron, so bear with me if I get a little stuck and have catching issues. But I have a feeling that this one is going to look even better when it's all scrambled up, just because of the extra colors and the amount of pieces that are unique. But you can do the same type of thing, but you have a lot more freedom of where you get these flat faces available. I'm still trying to just do 180-degree turns on things where I can. I don't think the solve on this one is going to be all that difficult. I think it's going to be mostly a kind of a vision thing. It's going to be harder to follow, harder to keep track of some of the pieces. But on here, you can do the same thing where you swap out swap that out, and then you have freedom of motion here. But it also gives you freedom of motion over here as well, if I can get rid of the catch and make the turn. There we go. And that looks pretty darn good. Great colors, all kinds of screwed around. And yeah, I mean, they both look great, scrambled up side by side. Again, big shout outs to LimCube for producing these, Cube in Store for selling them so quickly, getting them to me quickly, and big time apologies for that first video because I was not making enough sense at all. So again, the Trefoil Tetrahedron and the Rhombohedron version 3, 6 colors. Both are awesome puzzles. This one's going to be a lot of fun to figure out, and this one's going to be fun to solve a second time, especially now that I actually know what I'm looking at and have some conscious idea of how to approach it. So everybody keep your eyes out on the YouTube channel and my Instagram for a tutorial on this one, which will be coming up in the hopefully near future. So thanks for checking this out, and as always, happy solving.